Hello, everybody. Welcome to What Culture Music. I'm your host, Scott Tailford, joined by Rachel Shackleton.
All right.
And Andy Murray.
Hi.
Now, we've assembled a super team of people from What Culture Gaming and What Culture Wrestling because we are the biggest Slipknot fans in the office. Some of us bigger than others, as you'll find out. Mr. Andy Murray has done a whole essay of all things he wants to say.
I've pretty much written a novel.
To be fair, this is the first Slipknot album in like 5 years, and it's a bit of a monolithic event. So we've listened to it as much as we possibly could. I will confess that I am more of a casual Slipknot fan, although I do love them a lot. But I think that you guys both grew up with them a little bit more, so you'll pick up on some different insights and stuff.
For sure.
So let's open with some general thoughts. What do we initially think going through it? Either or.
My first thoughts after like 1 or 2 listens were I really like how experimental it is. I mean, Slipknot have always been like kind of a mix of heavy and then they'll throw in the odd softie now and then. But like this one seems like all over the place, but in a good way. I really like how it's really bookended. It's got like it starts off really well and it ends really well, and then in the middle it's got some
like you said, I love how experimental it is. I think it's kind of awesome how much they've gone down a bunch of different avenues. I think it's in Spiders, where you get like this kind of weird, like almost like rap style approach to it. But it always sounds like Slipknot. It always kind of feels like them. I remember when Dead Memories came out and everyone was like, "Oh my god, what the hell is this?" But it's still kind of creepy. It's still kind of like like macabre and stuff. It still feels like them. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I like it too. Like I think in the build-up to the release, Corey said something along the lines of, we want to experiment, we want to expand our sound, but we don't want to lose our signature sound because he hates when bands do that. And I think they've accomplished that. Like, they've not become a prog metal band overnight. They're not Gorguts or Obscura or something.
I have thoughts.
Solway Firth for carry on.
But they've done a really good job of expanding their sounds in ways that it doesn't quite break their mold, but certainly pushes it to the extent, perhaps, to a level we've not seen before. I love how cohesive the whole thing is, despite the wide variety of sounds. We'll get to that when we start breaking everything down. But to me, like, it's a really great fusion of what they used to sound like in the late 90s and early 2000s and some of the better stuff from All Hope Has Gone and The Grey Chapter.
I remember when we first all started listening to it, I think, Andy, you were the first person to finish it, and you were like, you just give me like a thumbs up. You're like, it's really good.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of like how the band's moved over the years, like I said, stuff like Dead Memories. I mean, I came in off Duality. I was one of that wave of people that were like, oh god, I can listen to this now, and then realizing that all of it was actually really good. And I think that they've kind of meshed those two like identities of what the band were
for sure.
and are. So yeah, we can start going song by song. The first one is called Insert Coin, which I just love the name of.
Yeah, I've written a note here like that name.
It's a good little.
And I think like for me, like with that, like it sort of points to, because Clown had a way bigger role in this. Like looking at a bunch of different interviews, like him and Mick Gordon have been talking about working together more. Like obviously the history of the band, they didn't necessarily get on very much. A lot of the energy of the band and the identity of the band kind of came from them. That weird chaotic energy that they sort of had. But something like Insert Coin, that sort of electric underpinning of it, definitely hints that there's going to be way more Clown throughout the whole thing.
It almost sounds uplifting the way this thing comes in, like this futuristic sci-fi movie build-up, and then it kind of gives these like strangled electronics give way to just this burst of pure noise and feedback. It's a classic Slipknot intro in a way, but it's also really quite hopeful and light, and until he comes in with the "I'm counting all the killers,"
which comes back in Solway as well.
And then it gets ugly.
I love a good intro to an album. Like I don't really like it when an album starts off with a single.
Right.
So I'm a big fan of the start of this album. Like huge big fan. It's my favorite part. I really like because I've got another album that I'm just gonna hark, and that is, have you guys heard Enter Shikari's The Minesweeper?
Yes.
I really like how, because the first song in that echoes the last song, and I feel like obviously Slipknot are doing that. They kind of echo Solway Firth.
I like how much we'll get to like some of the interludes and some of the more experimental little bits of music that like Clown sort of put together. Like I like that they are an album band, like that you can pick out the singles, but it's a body of work. I think I like that Slipknot always has that. It's like, this is a new Slipknot album. You're gonna take the time and listen to the whole thing.
But it also leads into number 2 very well as well.
Yeah. Which we can talk about the first major single, which was Unsainted, which like I know when they Slipknot came back to the pop culture, it was off the back of the song that I forgot the name of from last year.
All Our Life.
Yes, All Out Loud. And I like that. I thought that was going to be on here too, but seems like more of a one-off. But yeah, the first single for this album was Unsainted, which I did laugh when I first heard the big choir.
I can't make that noise. I can't do that.
And it's like, because apparently they said they wanted to get a choir in because they thought it'd be more epic. It would be a bit more like Pink Floyd. And I like them going, expanding their sound. But for me, there's ways to do choirs that sounds epic and sounds like, like monstrously powerful, like something like what Devin Townsend does on Empath from this year. But with them, I did laugh laughed the first time I heard the choral stuff. And I think it's weird with this song because I do like Corey as a vocalist, like obviously, but there's for me the song doesn't really actually start to work until the second chorus when the whole band comes underneath the main chorus.
It does a really good job of building tension and then releasing that tension throughout because it starts just with the choir, then you get some electronic noises like there's a little piano hit in the background. Corey comes in, and the whole thing really starts hitting its flow in the verse for me. When the full rhythm section comes in, it's proper motoring along. This is a song that took me quite a few listens to get into, which is weird because it's probably one of the most accessible on the album.
Yeah.
Accessibility is a good thing when you need to access things.
It's true for a wider audience, even still.
Yeah, but this is a stadium filler, surely. Like that chorus is going to be screamed back by thousands of people.
I was going to say, like, there was the first time that because I've seen Slipknot, I think 3 times. I've kind of lost count. It's a nice big blur of masks and fun. But when I first saw Psychosocial live, like as much as I like that song anyway, something about seeing Slipknot live makes all their compositions take on a whole new level. It all makes sense.
We're going to use the word stomp a lot.
Yes.
So.
I was totally going to ask the chat and anyone listening on their audio platforms and stuff. We were debating doing a 10 best stomps in Slipknot history because they're kind of known for the big old stompy riffs, and I might throw out Custer as one of my favorite stomps, but we can potentially do that depending on some feedback. Rach, what do you think of Unsane?
Yeah, Unsane, it is my favorite. In my opinion, it's the best track on the album. Like Andy was saying, it's very accessible. I like the best Slipknot songs for me are, and I'm going to contradict this later, are the ones that I can sing along to because I love singing along to Slipknot. I love like putting my own spin on the heavy bits. But like for me, it's got a really good chorus, and that is what kind of gets me. I love how experimental and weird it is with the choir.
Yeah, it's like super layered. Like it's weird. Like I do like the melodic side of it. Like I love that the Slipknot fandom has the both sides of it. Obviously, if you came up on Slipknot in Iowa, you're going to be looking for.
But it is also totally headbangable as well.
Yeah. And it's like I like that Corey has a really good like melodic side to him. Like I know that he has obviously brought in the Stone Sour influence more, and we had a lot of that on All Hope Is Gone and Great Chapter. But I like what Slipknot are in terms of just this band that can tick both boxes. They can headline off the back of this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely,
which is like a good thing.
My favorite part of the whole song actually is the bridge between the second chorus and the final chorus. They just do a really good job of kind of taming this energy, holding it back, and then just exploding with that "You've Killed the Saint in Me" refrain before the whole thing comes back in. It's a really grandiose, theatrical Slipknot song. It's there are elements of their formula in there, but touches like the way it slowly builds up at the start and then explodes, and the choir. It's a great metal anthem. It's going to be on like many people's best of the year list. I think.
Like I said, I think it takes a little bit of time to kick in, but like you said, that back third especially is like just sounds great. Rach, you've played your best song card. So
I have.
You're putting this down. We are yet to play out. We will see.
It was a close one between this and another one coming up, but I'll talk about that.
We will see. Next one down is Birth of the Krill, which at time of recording is their newest single, and like I think you were saying this was one of your favorites.
Yeah, I mean this is in the conversation for me. I just love how you go from this big stadium filling anthem to this ugly, writhing, sludgy, crawling. It's disgusting. It's a disgusting song, and I adore it. Like Corey's just spitting his words out across this whole thing. But my favorite I've got 2 favorite things about this. Number one is they did a really good job of incorporating the extra percussionists. And I know it's a bit of a meme, clown and the
big old tortilla man
hitting this goddamn barrel with a baseball bat, right? I know it's a bit of a meme, but they did a great job of using the percussionists and the turntables to add extra layers of sound in a way that's been missing on the past 2 albums. And this is one of my favorite things about the whole album, really. Because Volume 3 is probably my favorite Slipknot album, even though I think that's the point where they became a little bit less special. They embraced the stadium side, and it was really catchy, and it was really anthemic and stuff, but they lost a lot of that old creepy vibe with these sound effects and these bonk, that noise, all that stuff. Tang. Which is kind of a weird situation to be in to acknowledge that was kind of, for me, a bit of a creative downturn after that, but it is my favorite album. On here, it feels like a return to the days almost of Iowa and the self-titled in that regard. But my favorite thing of the whole song, and I think it might be yours as well, Scott, is that bridge with the stomping riff.
It is a good stomp.
It's incredible. After the second chorus, it comes in with this do-do-do-do-do, and it really, really reminds me of one of my favorite closing stretches in metal, Down's Bury Me in Smoke.
Oh, yeah.
Proper thumping outro. It's really good stuff. You can picture a whole field of people just moving as one, going crazy as this thing goes off. It's unreal. I love this.
I think like to add on to that, like I think the songs that they've picked for their singles, like as much as I like this as an album, like one of the things that I was thinking as I was listening through like the whole thing is that I was wondering whether I'm a casual Slipknot singles fan and I like the Waits and Bleeds and the Left Behinds and whatever, or do I like them as an album band? I like what they represent as an album band, but this one kind of grounded that stuff, and I do like that. Although they've picked songs like this to exemplify, you know, this is Slipknot, this is our third single in like a couple of weeks or whatever. There's still so much to it that it encourages you to go, and you know, you can go one way to Unsane, or you can go back into things like Solway Firth or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Rachel, you were fan.
One thing I really liked about Birth of the Krill was it's really not relying on a chorus. I couldn't tell you what the chorus was. I could not sing along to it, but I flipping love it. It's a very confident song, which I really liked.
Yeah, I think it's like you said, it's that sort of like that chaotic energy that comes from old school Slipknot.
Yeah, for sure.
But with like the modern production, the more layered stuff.
It's much beefier for sure.
Yeah, we can. We'll probably end up like touching on this a few times, but I think as a band, they're just way more cohesive at the minute. Like, you know, Mick's described that they're working together in a way that they never were before. And you know, you need to Google a few things about the history of Slipknot and the story.
We've all seen the video of Sid and Corey arguing at that music festival, right?
Yeah, and it's like I like that kind of became the energy on.
I'm gonna kill you.
And it's like, yeah, Corey being left in a bin because he OD'd or whatever.
Yeah,
and it's like, you know, things like that.
This guy's dead. Don't need him.
Don't need to worry about him. We'll get someone else. But I think things like that ended up becoming why people fell in love with them as this like chaotic like energy. And like you said, when they made that big pivot into duality and state, and you know, the headline download off the back of Volume 3, that like I like that they found a way to kind of do both sides of it.
Bridging the worlds. It's really fantastic stuff.
So the next thing is Death Because of Death, which I think is a big old clown composition. The first like sort of interlude between songs. Not a fan?
Yeah, I mean, the first time I heard it, I thought, wow, this is such a good, like, you know, it's such a good break.
Nice little breather.
Nice little cheesy interlude. But in my opinion, the album's got quite a lot of interludes, quite a lot of songs that take a long time to get going. And I'm just like, come on, get back to the stomps.
That's the strange thing because we know that they execute on the hashtag stomps so much that like when they do little interludes and things that do give you a respite from something like as menacing as Birth of the Krill, I like that in like a conceptual kind of sense. But
the pacing is good.
Yeah.
But I'm just
it's
like,
notable.
I want to just be uncomfortable all the way through. I don't want.
That's why I'm here.
I don't want a little nap in the middle.
Right.
It's very cheesy. It feels very cheesy. The lyrics are very cheesy. But it is a nice break.
I really like it actually. As a little gap, I think it's a nice way to bridge between the sheer ugliness of Birth of the Krill moving into Nero Forte, which is an entirely different song.
I'm prepping my card.
Yeah, I quite sound like. To me, it sounds like a really garbled, messed up video game level almost, in a way, until the drums start coming in and you get that death because of you mantra. I like it. I think it's, you know, it's at the end of the day, it's just a little interlude. So I'm probably, you know, when I'm not I'm going to listen to this album all the way through and give it my full attention, I'm probably going to hit skip.
I think but it's almost like a philosophy thing. Like I like albums being, like I said, like bodies of work. So it's like if I'm going to make a point of just sitting down and just listening to it, I will let it play out. But when I've been listening back to it for this review, I have been skipping through it.
Yeah,
because,
absolutely.
You know,
as part of like critiquing the album, it works. Critiquing the song itself.
Yeah, you're very rarely going to come back to it. Let's segue into on to play my best song card.
Is this your best song card?
I love Nero Forte. I absolutely love it. I think reading about the way that the song came together and the different ways that the chorus is layered up, I like when Corey goes into his full melodic mode. Like I love Stone Sour. Like even though they went super cheesy, I'd totally with them. Give me the Big Mac. I will take all the cheese. I don't mind. And I know that, like I said, I know that it's divisive and everything, but I like melodic Slipknot, not as much as Dead Memories, though that was fine. But I think something like Nero 4 is a nice mix of the two. It's mainly the chorus I absolutely love. It almost has like an angelic feel to the point where my wife was like, "Is that even Corey?" And it's just like, it's like super. Which like for me, I like that you have that, and then it thunders back into the staccato stuff, which like for me is exactly what they do.
Corn vocals when he comes
a
back
little
in
bit. Which, you know, as a lover of the late 90s,
you have got to absolutely adore Corey's range, which is like, I mean, this album like displays like his full range. To be honest,
he's just such a powerful, capable vocalist. Like he always has been.
There's some great guitar in this song. I love the guitar. The chorus is very singable, but overall, I find it quite forgettable.
Oh, good lord!
Oh, really? Really?
This is kind of what you want from a Slipknot fandom.
This, if anything, this proves just how like diverse that the album
I like
is.
it though. I mean, I like the fact that if you survey any room of Slipknot fans, chances are they all have a different favorite song for different reasons.
Oh, for sure. And I can see this one being a lot of people's favorites because this is like a sugary vocal refrain that I don't recall them ever doing before. Not
as high as this
kind of line.
I think it'll be their next single.
Yeah, but like I agree with what Rach says about like the riffing and the rhythms and stuff. The verses on this thing absolutely crush. It's like the whole band is totally locked into the rhythm. Jay Weinberg, let's go Weinberg, does an absolutely phenomenal job. He's really powerful throughout the whole album. He's like a battery thundering away. And the opening riff I really like as well. It reminds me of Circle of Sasquatch by Mastodon.
Cool.
I'm just going to reference a bunch of obscure stuff. And like, there's a bit of an in-joke in The Office. I'm not really a melody guy. I'm not really a chorus guy, despite really loving the chorus on Sainted. So the chorus here didn't really hook me like it will hook a lot of people, but I think it really works in the context of the song. It's a complete left turn, but once you get used to it, I think it all fits in together very well. For me, this song kind of comes into its own on the bridge. Corey just spitting fury on the microphone. The gang vocals bring it to another level as well. It turns into something infinitely more monstrous, and that's good because it contrasts nicely with that sugary.
That's what I think they've managed to come into their own with. Like they've always had those, well, especially since Volume 3, they've had the two sides to it. You can go back to the choruses for like Spit It Out and Wait and Bleed, things where like that melodic sensibility was there, but it was they weren't known for it as much as they are now.
Sure.
But I've seen different fans looking forward to this thing live, which I'm interested to see how he'll pull off that vocal live because it is so layered and it is on top of each other and everything. But I do absolutely love that song. So my card is played.
Oh, wow.
Next song is Critical Darling. Which I think it has like a very similar chorus melody to Nero Forte. But at the same time, I think I'm assuming the subject matter is about sort of online criticism and that sort of pressurized environment online.
Darling,
which
you're so critical.
Yeah, exactly. And like I like that idea of, because I saw a different review, I think it was from The Independent, saying that Slipknot embodies the anger that we all feel right now. And I like that they can kind of just take that and spearhead it and go with it. So I like a lot of the energy into the song, but I don't know how it struck you guys.
I actually, I really, really love, I'm in two minds about Critical Darling. I love the intro. The intro is mad, and I love it so much. The drums are incredible. I love the proper like guttural guitar, and the synth is really cool as well. The pre-chorus has this amazing build-up, but then the chorus is the weakest part of the song.
I think I'd back that.
It's it just totally lost me. Like 3 minutes in, it just drops everything that it's built up, but then it does build it back. But I was like, it's just mad. It's just what the hell is with the end of the song? The song is too long, I think.
6:25.
There's a lot of long songs on this. It's a nice body of work.
Yeah, it's a hefty one. I actually completely agree. I'm going to play a card, and it's my least favorite song card.
Really?
Critical Darling. Again, the verses, the riffage, there's some really good stuff in here, but the chorus, it just doesn't do it for me. It doesn't hook me. For me, the hooks of the song, as with most of the rest of the album, really come from Jim Root and Nick Thompson. I do, however, like the breakdown at about 4 minutes 30. You get the stomping riff, the scratches again.
Yeah, totally.
It kind of rattles forward at this breakneck pace. And then you get this outro with the dark synthesizers, like this single piano note hanging ominously over every bar. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I like these transitions. I like that they're... The problem I had with Volume 5 and like All Hope Is Gone is that rather than feeling like a cohesive, well-sequenced album with loads of different textures, it was just, here's a song, here's another. There was nothing really tying them together.
Totally.
So for me, I love stuff like this. It does add like an extra minute and a half onto an already long song, but I'm here for it.
I'm totally fine with that. I think it's weird, like I said, going back through, you sort of get more critical about Slipknot, and I think about my experiences with the band over the years. And I remember when I was growing up, before Volume 3, when they were this sort of like menacing, like totemic sort of force on stage, and no one could sort of like box them in, and they all these different
they were this scary band.
Yeah, they had this like scary kind of aura.
Yeah.
And like obviously in the modern age with social media, you're going to get more interactions with people like Corey. I mean, Corey's like ever since the Before I Forget video has been way more sort of, here's my face, I'm doing a bunch of different things, I'm doing talks at universities and stuff. But I like that they can still put a song out like this and it can still feel like that.
For sure.
That sort of like menacing, macabre kind of feel to it.
I'm so annoyed about this one. I love the start so much and then it just loses it for me. I'm annoyed.
I mean, that was, I forget if that one's actually been released yet or not, but I'm curious to see just what the fandom sort of picks out of it.
Yeah.
The end of this thing goes into the slowest song on the album, which is A Liar's Funeral. Which I'm dying for full lyric sheets to be put out because I really want to start studying some lyrics. But at the minute, I don't know. I'm not sure if Liar's Funeral is about anyone in particular. But the thing that stands out for me is the fact that it is right in slap bang in the middle and it does slow everything down. But I don't know if that appealed to you guys.
Yeah, no, I love this. I love this song. It's one of my It's not my favorite, but it is one of my favorites. It starts off pretty much like a typical. I'm not going to use the term slip sour. I don't like that. But like a soft knot song, like Vermilion Part 2 or Circles or Snuff or something. And then he just screams liar, which rips the whole thing apart. It kicks in with this thundering, almost doom metal-like riff. And the whole thing really comes alive. At 2 minutes, it's sludging about, chugging along. You get Corey's furious roars, the clean chorus. It's absolutely one of my favorite songs on the album. It is a complete change of pace from the two previous songs, which are like stadium-sized choruses, hooky bits and pieces. And again, it's just another sign of this album's experimentation.
I was going to say, because in terms of that, the pace change, like, did you? Because when I was listening to it for the first time, I kind of half forgot that Slipknot have this in their repertoire, kind of thing. You kind of forget that they do these like slower, more introspective stuff. Did you find yourself like wanting that as the album was going on, and this was welcomed, or it was like, oh yeah, they do this, like. Kind of just pops in.
I'm happy for it. Like Vermilion Part 2 and Snuff, songs like that have never really been. They're not my favorite. Put it that way.
Right.
So for them to start off with that kind of vibe and then subvert it completely by having these thundering, slow, pounding guitars was a really unexpected thing.
I like the second half of it. Yeah, Rach, were you a fan?
Yeah, I haven't got really that many opinions on this one. I feel like it's really, really well paced. It's very like well placed in the album, if you get me. Like it feels like it was designed to be there. It's possibly a skip song for me. I didn't really love Vermilion. Vermilion's not for me either, but I love Snuff. I love singing along to Snuff. You can't really sing along to Liar's Funeral.
We might do the best Slipknot ballads, which doesn't sound like it would make sense, but they do have a lot to pick from.
Everyone ranked.
Every single every all band members.
Yeah,
potentially.
The chorus is great, but it's not enough.
This goes into Red Flag, which I assume, again, lyrically, I assume it's about gun laws, but I'm yet to sort of dissect it fully. But yeah, I like the riff the whole way through this. There's a really incredible riff. I think it's my favorite. I love picking out very minuscule, specific riffs in albums. And there's one halfway through this, just during the breakdown, that goes into this like really lush little picking pattern. And it's my favorite riff on the record. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Red Flag. But what do you guys think?
It's just I don't have any particularly deep thoughts on this song. It's just a straight up ripper. There's no shiny chorus. It's breakneck throughout. There's some strong Fear Factory vibes, I think, on some of the riffs. The way they kind of chopped up, almost like a cyber metal song. It's controlled chaos. It's hurtling out of control. It's racing down a hill at 200 miles an hour, and it's not stopping until it smashes into something. Love the song. That's pretty much the extent of my analysis.
The thing though, like at this point, like, you know, it is Slipknot. They are sort of like, they are veterans. Like, we know what to expect. They have a Slipknot sound. Like, there's nothing wrong with just being Slipknot. It's just a Slipknot song, and it feels like it. I thought it was the same.
For me, like, it caught my attention because it came after Liar. So I was like, ooh, hello.
It's like welcome back.
What is this intro? Okay, right, we're getting back into it. And then it was really good. For me, I would call it one to bop along to in the background rather than actually like giving it your full attention. It's a good song, but it's not like, it doesn't stand out.
I think if it was, if we were analysing something like The Great Chapter or some parts of All Hope Is Gone, it would feel not like filler, but they're not standing out like the rest of it. But this album is so strong cohesively. That,
it's not, it might be filler, but it's not like, it doesn't stand out as not being good.
I think it's just, it's veterans, like, you know, executing on their craft.
That's exactly what it is. Like, it doesn't stand out perhaps because there's not really any real experimentation on this song. It's just a bloody banger. It's what they used to do.
It's got a stomp.
Yeah, exactly.
It does have a stomp.
Stomps.
Speaking of experimentation and sort of like more unique things, What's Next is totally clown in love with John Carpenter.
It's got a xylophone.
I'm so there for it. It's so like, it is just the Halloween theme, which like I'm totally for. In terms of like, I think this is the best interlude on the album, the one that I really like the feel of. I like, we'll get to My Pain, but I like the overall sort of just the tonality, the sort of, it's not necessarily, I've used menacing before, but it is that John Carpenter feel, which
it's
I think
creepy. Makes your skin crawl.
Creepy. It's kind of eerie. Like I like that. I like the Slipknot exploring what they can do in terms of, you know, oral sensations and stuff like that.
I've got a note here. I thought this was a Spotify advert.
For a John Carpenter collection.
I don't know. It came on and I'm like, I had to go on my media player and be like, is this an advert? We're still on the Slipknot.
It does take a little while. I like I said, I like the little chimes, but it is interesting that where it sort of sits in the album, that idea of like, would you skip it kind of thing.
It's very well placed right before Spiders.
It's a great intro for Spiders.
Yeah,
we might as well.
Sure.
Yeah, we can segue straight into Spiders, which I'll drop another sort of massively insulting thing to the fandom. I thought this was a Fozzy song because not a Fozzy song, but the bit. It's only because I know Fozzy has a song called Spiders as well. But there's a bit near the end of this when he's just going like spiders, and I was like, that's a Chris Jericho. Like that's something Mr. Jericho would lean in and do and think that it was way cool. So it did give me some Fozzy vibes. I do like I like how much, like I said, I like how much clown is just throughout this album.
Yeah,
and I do like how like that sort of just heavy like electric sort of influence that's throughout it. So I do like what Spiders is, but if we're talking about stuff that I'd probably skip to get to the way more powerful stuff, this might be a skip for me.
Ooh. I feel like this one for me was definitely a grower.
Okay.
First couple listens, I was like, "What is this? This is hashtag not my slip."
2x2.
And I was like, "No, this isn't for me. It's not Slipknot." But actually, I find it's one of the ones that has stuck in my head, and I keep singing the chorus in my head, and it is a really good song. It's not my preferred version of Slipknot, but it is a good song.
For me, it's an integral part of the album. And this song, like, it didn't really catch me at first as well because it was like, what is this?
Yeah.
But it's actually grown to become probably my favorite chorus on the whole album.
Oh, nice.
Like, I love the way this thing starts off. You got the keys from What's Next kind of seeping in a little bit, pounding bass. You know, it's obviously low on like grinding riffs and pounding rhythms and so forth. But I've written down here that it simultaneously sounds nothing like Slipknot and everything like Slipknot at the same time. Because like, in terms of specific tones and so forth, it's very different, but at the same time, it's still very creepy. It's very skin-crawling. It recaptures a lot of what I think they lost after Iowa, and they brought it back in. And you mentioned Clown. His influence is all over this thing. Like, after the spiders bit, there's a vocal line that's really... I don't know if you've heard his solo or his side project, To My Surprise.
Sadly not.
From about 15 years ago. But it sounds... The vocal line after that almost sounds exactly like something off that album.
That's cool.
So,
I mean, in terms of planting a seed to remind people, I mean, like someone like who might have picked up on it before, like it is worthwhile pointing out that he does have another body of work to go to.
Yeah, it's a surefire sign of evolution while looking back to that, which I got a lot out of.
I think, like I said, I like mentioning the idea of like what Slipknot is and what they used to be. Like we said, growing up with them until social media in Volume 3, they had this feel, this aura, this like sort of terrifying kind of feel. And knowing that Corey Taylor with something like Stone Sour went down, like a whole comic book came out, went more conceptual. I like the idea that he's maybe bringing some of that sort of cerebral side of it to Slipknot and fleshing out their sound that way.
For me, it just kind of highlights just how talented every single person in this band is because they have such incredible like range. I keep saying it, but that is my one.
But they all have range as musicians as well as him being an incredible vocalist.
Yeah.
We could talk about Orphan, which has one of my favorite lines in the whole thing, about being the one who kills your world. Just a big fan of embracing the dark. It
reminded me of that horror movie called Orphan, and he's on about killing people. I'm like, it's like that movie.
I think towards the end of the album, they start doing longer songs and more sort of stuff that would be kind of classified as more progressive or whatever. Like we talked about before we came in, whether something like Solway or Not Long for This World is the first time they've done a song with that many parts or that long. We can get to them, but I guess speaking of Orphan, this was like an early favorite for me, but it started to become forte over time. But did you guys grow to love Orphan as well?
It's my favorite song on the album. There's
the card played.
I love the whole thing. It comes in from this almost dystopian, futuristic soundscape. Again, like the intro, but a bit darker to the whole album. Then it kicks in with this just melting thrash riff. Like it's the biggest thrash metal influence on the album so far. It's breakneck. It's absolutely stomping as you'd expect. It's got this bit just before the verse comes in that's a top 5 Slipknot stuff ever. Boom, boom, boom. And then the chorus is ripping. It kind of sways back and forth without really going out of control. The riffing behind this is very, very interesting. And it's another example of a great contrast between the clean refrain and then I Am Orphan, the one who kills your world. I love it. It's close to a perfect Slipknot.
Because I guess I was going to say in terms of, because this can be like for both of you guys, like growing up and listening to Slipknot before the Volume 3 change thing, and then seeing where they are now, something like Orphan is the best way to balance both sides of that coin. I don't know if you guys would agree with that, or whether, because some songs do tip over. Like, I think I forget the name, is it Nero 4, which is the one that I love. I forget the name of the favorite song. I know the chorus. But that whole thing, I think when you're trying to balance those two things out, something like Orphan seems to walk that line way more stronger, way more confidently, and like they do bring in the melody, but it's not overriding. Like it's maybe a better way to do it. We could talk about My Pain, which the only thing I wrote down next to that was Final Fantasy, because this reminded me a lot. There's something about the chimes in this song that I swear is the Market Wall music from Final Fantasy VII.
My God, nothing happens for the first 2 minutes. It's so pretentious and boring, and I'm like, come on, it's so weird and slow. There's weird gunshots in the background. It's uneventful for me. It's not.
Actually, Rach, I totally leapt over you in terms of Orphan.
That's okay. Hey, I like Orphan.
You're a big old fan of the Orphan.
I like Orphan.
Andy, what about you with My Pain?
With My Pain, I can't sit here and say it's like my favorite song on the album, but I do enjoy it. I get quite a lot out of it. It's more of an ambient listening experience. There's not a whole lot of rhythm going on. It starts off almost like a post-rock song with like this jangly note hanging in the air, and then There's some deep, creepy, rumbling noise rattling around your headphones. Later, it's almost like a sparse trip hop. So it reminds me of one of my favorite songs, Eye Against Eye by Massive Attack.
From the Blade 2 soundtrack.
Yeah. To an extent, until Corey's vocal hits, and obviously it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But I'm about 10 listens into this album. This is, I don't know, I see it almost as a 6-minute breather.
Right.
It's more ambient, like I say. It's not pounding. It's not designed necessarily to catch your attention. I think maybe 15, 20 minutes listens into this thing, it'll come into its own, and certain things will start creeping into my head and so forth. It's a good song, and I like that about 4 minutes in, the noise kind of builds up and it gets really overwhelming, which I appreciate, and sounds great in the headphones. But, it's almost 7 minutes long.
Yeah. And we were having a discussion before we came in as to what's like an interlude versus a song and whatever, but I like how much this breaks things up. I like when they sort of just take a step back and let something as kind of random sounding on a Slipknot album as like wind chimes and that kind of thing. If it is wind chimes. It could be a little keyboard. But
I'm not arguing that it's not very clever and very good music, but I'm just like, it just comes across like, does this even need to be here?
When the rest of the back like third of the album is so thunderous and building and
Yeah, I mean, for me, the whole album, I think it's 15 songs-ish. 14, sorry. They could have gotten away with making it 11, in my opinion.
Ooh, that would have been... See, if you did that, that would be like a gut punch of an album in terms of the sheer strength of it.
Maybe I'd just like to be assaulted all the way through.
A big fan of the old school Slipknot is right.
Well, that'll be it, won't it?
So the next thing is Not Long for This World, which I've got down as my second favourite. I think this is Corey's best vocal performance on the whole album.
It's my second favourite as well, baby.
Yes! Rach, are you not a fan? No!
Okay, so the pacing in this one, like, it just didn't... Right, I've been listening to this album, obviously, while I've been working. I've been doing some video editing, so maybe this is why when I get to Not Long for This World and My Pain, I'm just like, please just skip to Solway Firth, please.
No!
Like, it just doesn't get me. It's great once it finally starts, but then it just drops it, and then it picks it up, and then it drops it again. It feels really sad.
Yeah.
It is very sad.
But I think they're kind of commenting on like their existence or the idea, like, you can extrapolate it out to the sort of humanity in general, the idea of like digitized things and digital records outlasting whatever life on this planet is left.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's just
I love it. I love that feel. I love that it ends with just this kind of weird little like digital, just a whole bunch of like digital noise.
I like the ending, actually.
Yeah.
They should have brought that more sooner, like to the rest of the song.
I like that it dies out and then you're left with just digital static and weird noises.
Actually would have been a really cool place to end the whole album for me. Just this thing dies like this.
And that's all we've got.
Although Solway, I've got comments on that as an ender, but we'll get to that very soon. Not Long for This World, I love it. Like, I think it's so meticulously structured. I love the way it builds and builds, coming in from like ambience with a clean guitar line, Corey's reverb-drenched vocals, and then the refrain hits properly. You've got a crushing guitar riff leading into that. As the thing's kind of drifting out, it's got this lovely gliding synth in behind the riff.
Yeah.
And then that's your release, and then it all cuts back down to the cleaner section. You start again, you build back up. This is one of my favorite Slipknot songs.
I kind of hope that they go more down into that down this route. I like the idea of the more progressive elements of the longer songs. I think that Corey wants to do more of this conceptual stuff again, based on something like House of Golden Bones, which they did 2 volumes of for Stone Sour. I like the idea of structuring songs in this way, and like I said, capitalizing on the psychology of it and getting lost in a Slipknot song.
I think for me, it was maybe just there was too many 7-minute songs. I think that was it. Like the album, like as a whole, maybe has like too many songs.
I wonder how much they're flirting with that stuff though. Like if they ended up doing like a whole, like an actual proper concept album about the state of the way that Corey views the world.
It would probably be very, very good.
Yeah, see, I would totally take that. I wonder if you knew what you were going in for, if that would be more sort of palatable. But they've kind of got these other elements that they're trying to tick boxes on in terms of the big melody choruses, the old school angst, like whatever. If that's they sometimes end up clashing with each other. And the album ends on Solway Firth, which I've kind of written down as the most progressive song they've done. But I guess that's also with Not Long for This World. Solway was, I think, the thing that turned us around a little bit when the first single started dropping, or it did for you initially anyway.
Yeah, this was the one that hooked me. Unsane, it didn't catch me immediately. I really don't like All Out Life. I know that's an unpopular opinion.
Yeah.
Obviously, it didn't make it onto the album, but this is the one...
does not mean dead, Andy.
Yeah, this is the one that really kind of just drew me in. I love the way this thing wraps the whole thing up with that I'm counting all the killers refrain coming in.
Yes.
Corey's vocal delivery in the early bits.
Killers.
Buddy.
It's so good.
It's great.
I love it.
Like the whole song, it's really defined. It feels like a big middle finger. It's a really appropriate note to end in. I don't really have any particularly deep thoughts on it. It's just a ripper. Again, similar to Red Flag in that sense. the thing I like about the chorus is that it's anthemic without being like, hey, look at this sugary melody or whatever.
Right.
It loses none of its stadium filling potential whatsoever, even though, he's basically screaming himself hoarse for 5 minutes 56.
The thing that I think that if you talk about Slipknot, obviously there's 9 members, and like you've got the whole thing where all their songs feel like these big, meaty, textured compositions. The thing that I sort of pick out more on this album is they have a couple of songs where the guitar really leads it more than the rest before the rest of the band comes in. And I do like it's just someone who just loves 80s, loves the guitar. And so anything like that. I like that in this song, you do have that sort of more pronounced riff underneath the chorus that you sometimes don't get with other Slipknot songs where Corey's leading it or the entire percussion is leading it. So I do like the Solway Firth, the mid riff, the chorus riff.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Solway Firth. What a tune. I love how it it gets teased at the start of the album and then it is this really strong finisher. I feel like I don't listen to a lot of albums that have a really strong final track. Normally the final track is a bit more like not along for this world. So it was really cool for me to see it there. It's raw, it's dirty, with little bits of calm in the middle. I love how it's paced. It's brilliant. The main verse riff, like I actually have put that this is another one where arguably the chorus is maybe the weakest part. Ooh. The post-chorus, however, is heckin' amazing. That's probably my favorite part. I looked up what Solway Firth means because I was a bit
on. I'm
curious.
yet to do like a full lyrical deep dive.
It's actually cliffs on the Scotland and England border by by Cumbria apparently, and someone on Wikipedia is like, but where are all the killers?
Being counted.
Being counted.
We're definitely in the process of counting them.
So I don't know. I thought that was pretty interesting.
I hope that is what it's based on somehow. But I'm looking forward to doing more, like I said, more lyrical dissections of stuff. We can totally do more Slipknot content depending on how this podcast does and video does. Because I think there's more people that are into Slipknot, but we sort of gathered us together as the people that would dive into the newest album as soon as possible. But let us know what you think down in the comments below if you're following us on the video side, or come find us on social media if you're listening on any audio platforms. But now, though, this has been the WhatCulture Music Podcast. I've been your host, Scott Tailford, joined by Rachel Shackleton.
Thank you for watching.
And Andy Murray.
See you later.
We'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.